coach.
Hey, Joe,
Go
you
ahead.
have one of the top third down defenses in the nation. What do you think has sparked your success in that area?
I think at first it starts with some success in some earlier downs and creating longer yardage third down situations. I think it's pretty obvious that if you're in a lot of short yardage type situations, that your success is just naturally going to be a little bit on the lower end. So that's one thing. I think the second thing is we have some guys in the back end that are experienced, and we're able to create some different looks back there, maybe more so than we have been able to in years past. So there's a good mix of things that we're doing from coverage to blitz and some things with stuff up front, stuff in the back end. Obviously, people got to see that on film and figure that stuff out. But that's what I think it really comes down to. And then the guys got to go execute it. It's easy to have different looks, but if guys are making mistakes and not executing at a high level, then you're not going to have success. And we've been fortunate to have some success there, and we can't take anything for granted because 1 week and you're not executing at a high level. Next thing you know, you look up and the offense is converting at 50%. So
Joe, we've talked a bunch on here about Jod Joyner. He really popped on Saturday. What do you feel like was instrumental in him having a big game?
yeah, I think obviously he maybe didn't get home a bunch of times in terms of finishing, but I thought he was disruptive. I thought he was in the quarterback's face. I thought we had multiple guys, that were creating some pressure. And the one thing about pressure is it necessarily doesn't always have to have sacks to result in an effect. There were some instances where guys like Trill got their hands up and it forced a higher throw. Quarterback was a little bit off of with his accuracy because he was getting hit. But I thought did a good job really getting off the football. He drew a couple holding penalties against a really good football player, one of the better tackles in the country. So it's great to see. I think if you look at him from the beginning of the year till now, there's just been a progression in his game. And we're very excited about where he can go because I think I've said it on here before. I think he's just kind of really scratching the surface. And with a guy that's got 3 years left in his career, it's exciting to see and think about where he can be as long as he works and puts the time in, which he is. So we've been pleased with him.
Jordan Howden had a really good game the other day. I'm just curious your thoughts on his journey to where he's come from, his development as a player to where he is now, and just all that he's done to overall to the type of player he's been, how dependable he's been. He had a great, I know he had a great game the other day. So just tell me if your thoughts on him.
Yes, so Jordan, came to us and actually walked on and was a cornerback, and then he kind of made the progression, to a safety. And those who followed the program for a while know he kind of got thrown in the fire as a young guy his freshman year and had some ups and downs in that first year. And I can remember him, the first game he had some plays that kind of went against him. But then I remember the second game he came in. I want to say it was Indiana, and he had an interception. And he's kind of gotten better since. And the place that I felt like he's always been athletic, and he's had that skill set as a safety. But the thing I've really seen him grow as is a tackler. I think he's really tackling at a high level. He was probably our most efficient tackler last year in terms of getting guys on the ground. I think he's kind of continued that this year and has also gained a little bit of physicality as well too. I think he's improved as a blitzer. So anytime you've got a guy who's played a lot of football, especially at the safety positions are invaluable in my opinion, especially in the type of defense that we run, because they're going to make a lot of adjustments and a lot of checks and a lot of calls. And Jordan's a super smart kid. He's a tremendous person. He works really hard. And we're very fortunate to have him, and he's really grown over the years. And I think he's got a bright future at the next level as well.
Explosive plays kind of told the story in the Minnesota versus Iowa game last year. How much do you look back at what went down in Kinnick last year, and how important is it for this game on Saturday that you limit more of those explosive plays?
Yeah, so you're talking about the 3rd and 2 shot over the middle where the got behind the post
Charlie
safety.
Jones diving catch
Yeah,
with
that
the
one.
double move.
Yeah, and then the double move, which went for 72 yards, and then the screen where we had two people hit him and slide off of them like Houdini, and he went in and scored. Those three have been on my mind. So, we have to limit explosive plays. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be a fine line in this football game, and it's going to come down to the football, and it's going to come down to explosive plays. And so we got to do everything in our power to limit explosive plays. We got to do everything in our power to create takeaways and get some balls back for our offense. So it's a tremendous challenge. I have a lot of respect for this program, Coach Ferentz. I have a lot of respect for how they play the game of football, and it's going to be a Big Ten West football game. And we're excited, but kids have been working hard, and they know what's at stake, and they know how hard it'll be to go out and get a W. So those things are very important for us having success.
Joe, Iowa's been able to score early in this series, the last few games. What's the key to preventing that?
Well, I think you got to go out and execute. That's a key to me. When an offense is able to go down and score on you, it's a result of their execution versus your execution. And so you got to go out and have the ability to start fast. You got to have the ability to go out and execute the details of the game plan, and that's going to be important for us. And so it's funny you bring it up because we've talked about that, and but it's not anything special that you have to do. You just got to come out ready to play, but more importantly, come out ready to execute.
Joe, when you talk about those explosive plays on your mind, what is the depth of that? What's the regularity that you've thought about them, tried to dissect them? How would you kind of characterize that?
Yeah, well, when did they happen? How did they happen? And why did they happen? So that's kind of what you really are looking at. And then you compare that with, things that you've done this year, compare that with things that they've done this year, and you ultimately have to go out and do your job. An offensive coach will draw up a play and he'll say that it's supposed to work every time. Everyone's going to be blocked up and it's supposed to work. A defensive coach will get up and say, "Hey, listen, if we're supposed to be, we're going to have success on that play." So, but it comes down to who executes each individually play better, that play better. So, we understand that, and we understand how hard this game's going to be.
I believe the weather forecast has this one as one of the coldest games probably in the PJ Fleck era here at Minnesota. So when you look at extreme cold games, how do you think the game kind of changes a little bit?
Well, I think it depends on what else is with the cold. If there's wind, if there's ice, I think wind and ice are probably the most challenging things for playing in from an offensive standpoint. If it's just cold, individuals react differently. Players react differently. Our opponent's a Midwest team, and I wouldn't expect, just cold weather to affect them very much. If we were playing a team that was coming up from the South, it might be a different story. But, we play in it, we live in it, we embrace it. I'm sure they do the same. I know they do the same. So as long as there's no wind and ice, I don't necessarily know that it'll have a huge effect in terms of throwing it and catching it and being able to run it. So,
Joe, you've got a number of seniors playing in their last home game. What have they kind of meant to your program? The Thomas Rushes, the Howdens, the Marianos of the world?
yeah, those guys are the glue, and so those three that you just mentioned, and then, others as well, Tea Time and those guys, like they got recruited, by Coach Fleck, and they were able to come in and they were part of a group that, early on, the success, in the bowl games and those things, maybe those first couple of years, obviously, wasn't there, but then it kind of started to get it turned, and then, they've been leaders for us. The thing about them is they're really good football players, but the thing that is, I'm most proud for them is they're even better people. All those guys are phenomenal people, and all those guys have gotten to, almost, if not all, they've used up and got to what their potential is, and that's exciting because so many times in college athletics, there's young people who, for various reasons, don't reach their potential, but those guys you just mentioned, because of how hard they practice, how hard they study, the type of people they are, how they persevere. They've gotten there, and they're kind of the backbone for what we've been able to do. So it's a bittersweet because those guys are going to be moving on, but they got bright futures. But we were very fortunate to have them.
Got time for a couple more for Coach?
What were some of your overall takeaways while studying Iowa's offense?
I think the number one thing is over the last 3 weeks, we've seen a lot of growth, in particular with the offensive line. I know it was a group that had some new guys kind of come into the fold, and when you watch from the beginning of the year till now, I've been impressed with the progress, and that's coaching, and that's also the players working hard. I've seen some development at the tailback position, and guys getting into open field and ripping off some runs, and which has created some danger there for us, and we got to understand that. The tight end's one of the best players in the country at his position, and he can catch it. He can run routes. I mean, he's like a receiver, but he's a big-bodied guy, and so I've seen just them continually steadily improve. And they've had success against us in the past, as you mentioned, and so we understand that. And I have a lot of respect for their coaching staff and what they're able to do. So there's going to be a tremendous challenge for us.
Anything else for Coach Rossi? All right, thanks for joining us, Coach.
All right, guys, thank you.